Have you ever noticed that the moment someone sends a sexual text, they are not only testing your attraction, they are testing your mind? Most people believe the right reply is the one that sounds the hottest, but power has never belonged to the person who speaks with the most desire. Power belongs to the person who controls the direction of the conversation. Machiavelli understood one truth that still rules human behavior today. People respect what they cannot easily predict, and they value what they cannot easily control. The moment you react without thinking, you surrender your position. The moment you respond with purpose, you become unforgettable. This is not about playing games. This is about understanding human psychology. Every message is a move. Every reply shapes how the other person sees you. Attraction is rarely destroyed by honesty, but it is often destroyed by desperation. That is why today you will discover 13 powerful ways to respond to sexual texts without losing your confidence, your mystery, or your self-respect. These principles are not about manipulation. They are about emotional control. Because the strongest person in any conversation is never the one who wants the most. It is the one who needs the least. Imagine two people receiving the exact same message late at night. One immediately replies within seconds, throwing away every emotion they have been holding inside. The other pauses. They smile. They think. They ask themselves one simple question. What kind of impression do I want to leave? That single pause changes everything. Most people believe attraction is built by saying more. In reality, attraction often grows because someone knew when to say less. Silence has a strange effect on the human mind. It creates curiosity. Curiosity creates attention. Attention creates value. Machiavelli would never waste attention by acting without purpose. The first way is simple. Never reward low effort with high effort. Suppose someone sends a lazy message that only exists to get an instant emotional reaction. Many people immediately begin writing long replies filled with excitement. They are giving away something valuable for almost nothing. Every relationship, whether casual or serious, follows an invisible law of exchange. Respect grows when effort is balanced. If someone sends little, you do not have to send everything. Keep your response calm. Keep it measured. Let them earn deeper conversation, instead of receiving it for free. People appreciate what requires investment. Confidence is often mistaken for boldness. They are not the same thing. Boldness speaks loudly. Confidence speaks only when necessary. Someone who knows their worth does not rush to impress another person. They understand that attraction is not created by chasing approval. It is created by showing emotional stability. Stability is rare. That is why it feels attractive. Anyone can become excited. Very few people remain calm under emotional pressure. The second way is to respond with curiosity instead of instant emotion. Curiosity changes the balance of the conversation. Instead of reacting automatically, ask yourself what the other person is really trying to communicate. Are they seeking attention? Are they testing confidence? Are they looking for validation? Human beings rarely communicate only through words. Every message carries hidden intentions. The wise person listens to both. When you become curious instead of reactive, you stop being controlled by the conversation. You begin controlling your own emotions. Machiavelli often wrote about understanding motives rather than appearances. The same lesson applies today. People reveal themselves over time. A single message should never convince you that you fully understand someone's character. Patterns matter more than moments. Anyone can appear confident for 5 minutes. Character is revealed over weeks and months. Never build your opinion from one exciting conversation. Build it from repeated actions. The third way is to protect your mystery. Modern communication encourages constant availability. Phones have created the illusion that every message deserves an immediate answer. This habit slowly destroys mystery. If someone knows exactly when you will answer, exactly what you will say, and exactly how you will react, then surprise disappears. Predictability slowly weakens attraction. This does not mean ignoring people for the sake of appearances. It means living a life that is full enough that your phone does not control your attention. Someone who has purpose naturally becomes less predictable because their world does not revolve around notifications. Think about the most respected people you know. Are they always waiting for messages, or are they usually busy building something meaningful? Purpose changes everything. A person with goals speaks differently. They carry themselves differently. They never appear desperate, because their happiness is not dependent on another person's reply. Independence creates calm. Calm creates strength. The fourth way is to use humor wisely. Humor removes pressure without removing confidence. Many conversations become uncomfortable because one person believes they must match intensity with intensity. They forget another option exists. A clever joke can keep the conversation light while showing emotional intelligence. People often remember how you made them feel more than the exact words you used. A relaxed person makes others feel relaxed. Anxiety spreads. Confidence spreads too. Decide which one you want to bring into every conversation. However, humor should never become self-disrespect. Some people constantly make themselves the joke because they hope others will like them more. This strategy usually fails. Respect and attraction rarely grow from lowering your own value. Laugh together, but never laugh away your dignity. Machiavelli understood that image influences perception. How you present yourself teaches others how to treat you. The fifth way is to avoid proving yourself. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing every conversation is an interview. They try to demonstrate how attractive they are, how experienced they are, or how interesting they are. The harder they try, the less convincing they become. Confidence never needs constant advertisement. Imagine a king walking through his kingdom. Does he stop every citizen to explain why he deserves respect? Of course not. His behavior speaks before his words. The same principle applies to everyday life. Let your actions communicate your value more than endless explanations. People become fascinated by those who appear comfortable with themselves. Comfort cannot be faked forever. Eventually masks fall away. That is why building genuine confidence matters more than performing confidence. One lasts for a moment, the other lasts for years. The sixth way is to notice consistency. A charming conversation means very little if respect disappears the next day. Human beings often confuse excitement with compatibility. Excitement feels powerful because it creates emotional highs. Compatibility creates peace. Peace is quieter, but it is stronger. If someone only appears when they are bored, lonely, or seeking attention, pay attention to that pattern. Your time is valuable. Give it to people who treat it as valuable too. Many people lose themselves because they become addicted to possibilities instead of reality. They imagine what someone could become rather than accepting who they already are. Machiavelli respected reality above fantasy. He believed wise decisions begin by seeing people clearly, not by imagining perfect versions of them. The same wisdom protects modern relationships. Observe actions. Listen carefully. Believe repeated behavior more than beautiful promises. The seventh way is to stay emotionally balanced. Strong emotions make weak decisions. This has been true in politics, business, friendship, and love. Someone sends an exciting message. Your imagination races ahead. Suddenly, you begin creating stories that do not exist. You expect outcomes that have never been promised. Expectations create disappointment. Balance creates clarity. Emotional balance does not mean becoming cold. It means refusing to let temporary feelings control permanent decisions. Every successful strategist understands timing. Timing requires patience. Patience requires discipline. Discipline creates freedom because you stop reacting to every emotional wave that enters your life. Remember this simple idea. Every conversation reveals two things. It reveals who the other person is, and it reveals who you are. You cannot always control what someone else writes, but you can always control the quality of your own response. That is where real power begins. It begins inside your own mind long before anyone else notices it. Most people spend years trying to control others while completely ignoring themselves. They never realize that self-control is the greatest advantage they could ever possess. And once you understand the next 6 principles, you will see why the smallest reply can completely change the balance of any relationship. The 8th way is to never let the conversation become your entire world. This is where many intelligent people quietly lose their power. They receive one exciting message, and suddenly, every thought begins to revolve around the next reply. They check their phone every few minutes. They replay every word in their mind. They begin searching for hidden meanings that may not even exist. Without realizing it, they have handed control of their emotions to someone they barely know. Machiavelli would see this as the first sign of weakness. The person who cannot govern their own mind will always be governed by someone else's actions. Your attention is one of your greatest assets. Spend it carefully. A message should be a small part of your day, not the center of your life. When your purpose, your work, your health, and your ambitions remain your priorities, every conversation becomes healthier because your happiness is no longer dependent on another person's attention. This is why emotionally independent people often appear more attractive. They are not chasing validation because they already possess self-respect. They enjoy connection, but they do not require constant reassurance. There is a peaceful confidence in someone who can enjoy another person's company while remaining complete on their own. That kind of confidence cannot be copied through clever words. It is built through daily habits and personal discipline. The 9th way is to reward respect, not intensity. Many people mistake bold behavior for genuine interest. Someone may send exciting messages today and disappear tomorrow. Another person may communicate calmly, consistently, and respectfully every day. Which one deserves more of your trust? The answer becomes obvious when emotion is removed from the equation. Intensity creates excitement, but consistency builds confidence. A strategist never judges people only by how strongly they make them feel. They judge people by how reliably they behave. When someone communicates respectfully, appreciate it. Respect encourages respect. But if someone repeatedly ignores your boundaries or only reaches out when it suits them, do not convince yourself that things will magically improve without effort from both sides. Patterns repeat because people repeat them. What you tolerate today often becomes the standard tomorrow. Every relationship teaches people what is acceptable. Teach others through your standards, not through endless explanations. There is another lesson hidden here. People often fear losing someone so much that they slowly lose themselves instead. They agree with everything. They hide their opinions. They become whoever they think the other person wants. This may create temporary approval, but it destroys genuine attraction. No one can truly value a person who has abandoned their own identity. The strongest connections are built between two complete individuals, not between one confident person and another who constantly seeks permission to exist. The 10th way is to let confidence speak through restraint. Modern culture often encourages immediate reactions. Respond now, decide now, feel now, but the greatest decisions are rarely made in emotional moments. Imagine a skilled chess player. Do they move the first piece they notice? Of course not. They pause. They examine possibilities. They think several moves ahead. Conversations deserve the same discipline. A thoughtful reply often carries more weight than a rushed one. Restraint is not hesitation caused by fear. It is patience guided by wisdom. People are often surprised by how much influence calm behavior creates. Anger demands attention. Excitement demands attention. Calm earns respect. When you refuse to be pulled into emotional extremes, others begin to notice your stability. Stability is rare because most people spend their lives reacting instead of choosing. Choice is where freedom begins. Machiavelli understood that people reveal themselves when they believe they are influencing you. If someone realizes every message immediately changes your mood, they have learned something about your emotional habits. But if your behavior remains steady regardless of external events, they cannot easily predict or control you. Emotional consistency creates psychological strength. This does not mean pretending not to care. It means caring wisely instead of carelessly. The 11th way is to understand the difference between attraction and attachment. Attraction is natural. It brings two people together. Attachment, when driven by insecurity, often creates fear. Fear of losing attention, fear of silence, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. These fears quietly influence every conversation. Suddenly, your replies are no longer based on confidence. They are based on anxiety. Anxiety always asks, how can I keep this person interested? Confidence asks a completely different question. Is this connection good for both of us? That single change in perspective transforms everything. Notice how confident people evaluate situations instead of begging situations to work. They observe, they listen, they decide. They understand that compatibility cannot be forced. Genuine interest never needs endless persuasion. When two people respect each other, communication flows naturally. It may not always be perfect, but it does not require constant emotional chasing. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that every exciting conversation must lead somewhere important. Sometimes a conversation is simply a conversation. Sometimes interest fades naturally. Sometimes two people realize they are not looking for the same future. None of these outcomes reduce your value. They simply reveal reality. Reality is always easier to work with than fantasy. Accepting reality early saves months, or even years of emotional confusion. The 12th way is to become difficult to manipulate, because you understand yourself. Manipulation often succeeds because it finds uncertainty. Someone who constantly doubts themselves is easier to influence. They seek approval from outside because they have not yet built confidence inside. But self-awareness changes everything. When you understand your own values, priorities, and boundaries, fewer people can push you away from them. Spend time asking yourself difficult questions. What do you truly want from relationships? What behavior will you never accept? What kind of person brings peace into your life instead of constant drama? These answers matter far more than having the perfect reply to any single message. Strategy without self-knowledge is incomplete. Before understanding other people, understand yourself. There is an old mistake repeated every day. People spend hours learning how to impress others, but almost no time learning how to protect their own peace. They read endless advice about attraction while ignoring emotional discipline. Yet discipline is what keeps attraction healthy. Without discipline, desire easily becomes obsession. Without discipline, attention becomes addiction. Without discipline, confidence slowly disappears beneath the need for constant reassurance. Imagine standing beside a river. If you jump into every current, the water decides where you go. But if you remain on solid ground, you choose which direction to walk. Conversations work the same way. Every emotional impulse invites you to react immediately. Wisdom invites you to observe first. Observation creates understanding. Understanding creates better decisions. Better decisions create stronger relationships. Remember that true confidence is quiet. It does not constantly announce itself. It appears through patience, clear thinking, and consistent behavior. People may not always notice it immediately, but over time they begin to trust it. Trust is more valuable than temporary excitement, because trust survives long after excitement fades. Many people chase intensity because it feels powerful in the moment. The wise person chases clarity because clarity protects them in every season of life. Once clarity becomes your habit, you stop fearing silence, uncertainty, or delayed replies. You understand that your value has never depended on another person's opinion. And when you finally reach that state of mind, you are ready for the final lesson, the principle that quietly separates those who are emotionally controlled from those who quietly control the direction of every meaningful relation. To be continued in Part 3. Part 3. Part 3. The 13th way is the most important because it brings every lesson together. Always leave room for dignity. No matter how exciting the conversation becomes, never trade your self-respect for temporary attention. The moment you believe that keeping someone's interest is more important than protecting your own values, the balance begins to shift against you. Machiavelli understood that people may admire charm for a moment, but they remember strength for a lifetime. Strength is not loud. It is the quiet decision to remain true to yourself, even when emotion tempts you to act differently. Every conversation eventually reaches a point where character matters more than chemistry. Attraction may begin with excitement, but respect determines whether it survives. Someone can enjoy your words today and forget them tomorrow. They are far less likely to forget the person who remained calm, thoughtful, and confident under every circumstance. Emotional discipline creates a lasting impression because it is so uncommon. Most people react. Very few people respond with intention. There is an invisible difference between seeking attention and attracting attention. The person seeking attention constantly wonders, how do I make them think about me? The person who naturally attracts attention asks a completely different question. Am I becoming someone worthy of respect? One question looks outward. The other looks inward. The second question changes your entire life because it places responsibility back into your own hands. Imagine a tree growing in the middle of a storm. The wind pushes against it. Rain falls without mercy. Branches shake. Leaves fall. Yet the roots remain deep. That tree does not argue with the weather. It simply remains grounded. This is how emotional strength looks in everyday life. Messages come and go. Opinions change. People's feelings rise and fall. But your principles remain rooted. When your identity is built on values instead of validation, very little can disturb your peace. Many people spend years trying to become more attractive while ignoring the habits that actually create attraction. They focus on appearance while neglecting discipline. They focus on clever replies while neglecting emotional maturity. They focus on gaining approval while neglecting self-respect. Eventually, they discover an uncomfortable truth. Temporary attention feels exciting, but lasting respect feels secure. Respect creates peace because it is built on authenticity instead of performance. Machiavelli often observed that those who appear strongest are not always the strongest. Sometimes the quietest person in the room possesses the greatest influence because they are never ruled by impulse. Think about leaders throughout history. The ones remembered most clearly were rarely those who reacted emotionally to every challenge. They paused, they observed, they calculated, then they acted. The same principle works in personal relationships. A measured response almost always carries greater weight than an emotional outburst. There is another mistake worth avoiding. Never confuse mystery with dishonesty. Some people believe being unpredictable means constantly sending mixed signals. They disappear without explanation. They play with emotions. They create confusion simply to feel powerful. This is not confidence. It is insecurity wearing a disguise. Real mystery comes from having a full life, meaningful goals, and emotional balance. You do not become interesting by creating chaos. You become interesting by living with purpose. Purpose changes the energy you bring into every conversation. When your days are filled with meaningful work, learning, fitness, friendships, and personal growth, you naturally become less dependent on any single interaction. Your messages feel lighter because they are no longer carrying the weight of your entire happiness. People sense this difference even if they cannot explain it. Independence has a quiet magnetism. It tells others that you enjoy connection, but you do not rely on it for your identity. One of the greatest forms of confidence is the ability to walk away peacefully. Walking away does not always mean ending a relationship. Sometimes it means walking away from unhealthy habits, walking away from constant overthinking, walking away from the need to respond immediately, walking away from chasing people who have already shown you where their priorities lie. Every time you leave behind behavior that weakens your peace, you create space for behavior that strengthens your future. Think about how often fear shapes human decisions. Fear of rejection causes people to hide who they are. Fear of silence causes people to send unnecessary messages. Fear of losing someone causes people to accept treatment they know they deserve better than. Fear quietly steals confidence because it convinces people that any connection is better than no connection. But that belief is false. The wrong connection can cost more than loneliness ever will. Loneliness is temporary. Losing yourself can last for years. That is why self-respect must always come before approval. Approval changes from person to person. One individual may admire you, while another criticizes you. If your confidence depends on their opinions, your emotional state will constantly rise and fall. But self-respect is different. It comes from knowing that your actions align with your values. No message can give you that. No compliment can replace it. No amount of attention can create it if you have not built it within yourself. Observe people carefully. Notice who respects your time without demanding all of it. Notice who communicates honestly instead of creating unnecessary confusion. Notice who supports your ambitions instead of distracting you from them. These qualities reveal far more than a few exciting conversations ever could. Attraction without respect fades quickly. Attraction supported by respect has the chance to grow into something meaningful. Another lesson worth remembering is that silence is not always rejection. Sometimes people are busy. Sometimes they need space. Sometimes life simply interrupts communication. Wise people avoid creating dramatic stories from incomplete information. They gather evidence before reaching conclusions. Emotional maturity means accepting uncertainty without allowing it to control your imagination. Not every unanswered message carries hidden meaning. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the correct one. This mindset protects your peace because it keeps you connected to reality. Reality is where wise decisions are made. Fantasy creates unnecessary suffering. The more disciplined your thinking becomes, the less power uncertainty holds over you. You stop trying to predict every outcome because you trust yourself to handle whatever outcome arrives. There is a quiet confidence in someone who knows they will be fine regardless of another person's response. This confidence does not come from arrogance. It comes from preparation. They have built a meaningful life outside their relationships. They invest in their health. They continue learning. They strengthen friendships. They pursue goals that exist whether someone texts them or not. Their identity stands on many strong pillars, instead of balancing on one fragile conversation. Imagine two houses. One is built on deep stone foundations. The other rests on loose sand. From a distance, they may appear similar, but when the storm arrives, their true strength becomes visible. Relationships work the same way. If your confidence is built only on external attention, every disappointment feels like an earthquake. But if your confidence is built on discipline, purpose, and self-respect, life storms become challenges instead of disasters. Machiavelli believed that fortune often favors those who prepare rather than those who merely hope. Preparation in relationships does not mean planning perfect replies. It means becoming the kind of person who remains emotionally steady regardless of the situation. When your mind is disciplined, your words naturally become wiser. When your emotions are balanced, your decisions become stronger. When your values are clear, your confidence becomes difficult to shake. Remember the 13 principles you have learned. Do not reward low effort with excessive effort. Replace emotional reactions with curiosity. Protect your mystery by living a meaningful life. Use humor without sacrificing dignity. Never feel the need to prove your worth. Judge people by consistent actions instead of exciting moments. Stay emotionally balanced. Keep conversations in their proper place instead of making them your entire world. Reward respect over intensity. Let restraint reveal your confidence. Understand the difference between attraction and unhealthy attachment. Build self-awareness so manipulation loses its power. Above all, never sacrifice your dignity for temporary attention. These principles are not only useful for messages on a screen. They apply to friendships, family, business, leadership, and every human relationship. Every interaction offers the same choice. You can react emotionally, or you can respond with purpose. One path gives temporary satisfaction. The other builds lasting strength. The greatest victory is never controlling another person's emotions. The greatest victory is mastering your own. Once you achieve that, you stop fearing silence, rejection, uncertainty, or delay. You understand that your value has never depended on another person's approval. It has always depended on the character you choose to build every single day. And when your character becomes stronger than your cravings, you discover the kind of confidence that no message, no opinion, and no passing moment can ever take away. If this video helped you think differently, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next lesson. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a comment below. Which of these 13 principles changed your perspective the most? Until next time, stay calm, stay strategic, and protect your power.